Welcome to Mindful Moments. Nourish your mind on the go. This video uses AI narration to present our original book analysis.
Oh, that's pretty neat.
So today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into Jojo Moyes' Me Before You.
Oh, I love that one.
Have you read it?
I have. It's so heart-wrenching, but beautiful at the same time.
Yeah, it really throws you into this whirlwind of emotions right from the beginning. You meet Louisa Clark, and she's kind of just like going through life, not really sure what she wants to do.
Yeah, she's a bit lost, isn't she? I mean, she's got this job at the cafe, but it's not really fulfilling. And then she gets laid off.
Exactly. It's like the rug gets pulled out from under her, and she's forced to take on this new challenge. Caring for Will Traynor, who's a quadriplegic man after a motorcycle accident.
It's such a stark contrast, their worlds colliding like that. You have Louisa, who's quirky and colorful, always trying to brighten things up with her, bumblebee tights and that emu waistcoat.
Yeah.
And then there's Will, who's initially bitter and cynical, trapped in this body that doesn't obey him. You can feel his anger, his resentment towards life itself.
It's almost like he's given up.
Yep.
Like he's just waiting for it to be over.
Yeah, there's this underlying sadness to him, this feeling of being a burden to everyone. It makes you think about how we deal with loss, how our circumstances can shape who we become.
And in this deep dive, we'll go beyond just the plot. We'll unpack their personalities, how they clash and connect. And we'll tackle those really tough questions the book raises, like Will's desire for assisted suicide.
It's a topic that's often taboo, but Moyes doesn't shy away from it. It makes you confront your own beliefs about life, death, and what it means to live a meaningful life.
Right. And it all starts with understanding where they come from, their individual worlds, before they collide. So Louisa, her family really depends on her income.
Yeah, her sister's a single mom, struggling to make ends meet. And Louisa's love life isn't exactly setting the world on fire either. She's been with Patrick for years, but is it really love or just comfort and routine?
And it's through her job search that we see how bleak things are. She tried everything, from a chicken factory to an energy advisor role, but nothing seems to fit.
It paints a pretty grim picture of the economic reality at the time, especially for those without higher education or specialized skills. It's a relatable struggle for so many people.
And then there's Will. Before the accident, his life was completely different. It was all ski trips, expensive clothes, risky business deals. He was letting life on the edge.
Yeah, he had this drive, this energy that just radiated from him. He was the kind of guy who could conquer anything, or at least that's how it seemed.
And now he's confined to a wheelchair, dependent on others for even the most basic needs.
It's a stark contrast, and you can understand why he's so bitter. He sees Louisa as just another minder, someone there to clean up his mess and cater to his every whim.
But it's more than just bitterness, right? There's a deep-seated anger there, directed at himself, at the world, at fate itself.
He pushes everyone away, especially Louisa. He's constantly testing her, making snarky comments, trying to get a rise out of her. It's like he wants to confirm his worst fears, that he's no longer worthy of love or connection.
But there's also this tension with his parents, especially his mother. You sense this underlying guilt, like they blame themselves for what happened.
Yeah, it's like they're walking on eggshells around him, afraid to say or do the wrong thing. And that just adds another layer of pressure for Will, who's already dealing with so much.
But beneath all that anger and cynicism, there's something else. Something Louisa starts to see. They have this banter, this way of sparring with each other, and it becomes their way of connecting.
They're both hiding behind these walls, these carefully constructed personas. And through their shared dark humor, their willingness to challenge each other, they start to chip away at those defenses.
It's almost like they give each other permission to be vulnerable, even if it's disguised as sarcasm and witty comebacks.
Exactly. And then you have Nathan, the experienced caregiver, who provides this grounded perspective. He's seen it all. He knows the challenges of caring for someone like Will.
And he sees something special in Louisa, in her ability to connect with Will on a deeper level.
He observed how she starts to understand the constant, often invisible pain Will endures, the weight of a situation that goes beyond the physical limitations. It's that empathy, that willingness to see beyond the surface that starts to shift their relationship.
And that's where things start to get really interesting, because Louisa's not just there to care for Will physically. She wants to care for his soul as well. And that's when she comes up with this idea, this anti-bucket list, to give Will experiences that remind him of the joy of living.
It's a beautiful idea, but it also highlights the clash between what Louisa thinks he should want and what he truly desires.
No.
It makes you question, can we really impose our own ideas of happiness on someone else?
And that's something we'll delve deeper into in the next part of this deep dive. We'll explore those experiences, the ups and downs, the triumphs and the heartbreaks, as Louisa tries to navigate this incredibly complex relationship and grapple with the ethical dilemmas that come with it.
It's a journey that'll stay with you long after you finish the book.
So stay tuned for part 2, where we'll continue unpacking me before you and exploring the depths of human connection, love, and loss. You know, it's funny because as we follow Louisa trying to bring some joy back into Will's life, we see her own life changing too.
Yeah, she starts to grow in ways she probably never expected. She's stepping outside her comfort zone, and not just because of Will's physical needs.
Like, remember how she always felt kind of stuck with Patrick? He was all about fitness and marathons, and Louisa just, well, wasn't.
He was comfortable, familiar, but it was starting to feel more like a rut than a relationship.
Exactly. And then Will comes along, and he's this sharp, witty guy who challenges her intellectually. Like that scene where he insists she read The Red Queen, that book on genetics. He's like, genetics? Really?
But he sees something in her, a curiosity that maybe even she hadn't recognized before.
It's like he's pushing her to expand her horizons, even though he's the one physically confined.
And he doesn't let her get away with anything. He calls her out on her assumptions, her limited worldview. It's tough love, but it's effective.
But the book also gets real about what it takes to care for someone like Will. That scene where Nathan, the other caregiver, has to change Will's catheter. I mean, it's not exactly light reading.
It's raw, honest, and it shows how Louisa has to confront her own discomfort, her own squeamishness. But she does it because she cares.
It really underscores how the relationship goes beyond just employer and employee.
It becomes about mutual respect, understanding. They're sharing this incredibly intimate experience, even though it's not romantic in the traditional sense.
And then there's the added tension of Will's parents coming to visit. Oh boy. Talk about awkward.
You can practically feel the judgment radiating from them. They're trying to be supportive, but there's this unspoken worry about what people will think.
And then, on top of everything else, Will's dad is having an affair.
Yeah, talk about a family falling apart. It makes you wonder if these cracks were already there, or if Will's accident just brought them to the surface.
So you have all this emotional baggage swirling around, and then Louisa decides to go full steam ahead with this anti-bucket list for Will.
She's determined to make him see that life is still worth living, even if it's different than what he planned.
She puts so much effort into it. Remember the horse races? The fancy clothes, the champagne?
It's a disaster. But it shows how much she cares, how badly she wants to make him happy.
And then there's the concert. Such a beautiful scene, but also kind of bittersweet. Will is clearly moved by the music, but it's a reminder of what he's lost.
It shows how even the best intentions can backfire. You can't force someone to find joy in something if they're not ready.
And all this time, Louise is falling for him. It's hard not to, with his wit and intelligence and, yeah, even his vulnerability.
But it complicates things so much. Her desire for him to live is now intertwined with her own feelings.
It makes her question everything. Can she be objective? Is she doing this for him or for herself?
And then there's that scene on the beach. Ugh, my heart breaks every time.
He's so honest with her, so vulnerable. He tells her about his fears, the pain, the possibility of getting worse.
And he asks her to go to Switzerland with him to support his decision.
It's such a heavy request, such a burden to place on someone you love. I mean, it's not like there's a right answer in that situation. What do you even say to that?
Right, and Moyes does such a good job of showing just how messy and complicated it all is. Louisa's first instinct is to just run, literally run away from the airport.
It's such a visceral reaction, like her emotions are just overloaded.
Absolutely. And then when she goes back home, she tries to explain it all to her family, but...
Oh man, her family does not understand.
No, especially her mom. It's like a complete betrayal to her, this whole idea of assisted suicide.
Yeah, it creates this huge rift between them. You see how deeply it affects their relationship.
It makes you think about how differently people cope with these tough ethical dilemmas. There's no right or wrong way to feel, but it can definitely cause some serious conflict.
And in the end, Louisa decides to go back to Will, to go with him to Switzerland.
It's such a powerful decision. She's choosing to honor his wish, even if it means going against her own family, her own beliefs.
It really makes you question what love means. How far would you go for someone you love?
And it's not just about love, it's about respecting someone's autonomy, their right to make their own choices, even if we don't agree with them.
And that final scene in Paris with Will's letter.
Oh man, the waterworks start flowing every time.
It's so heartbreaking, but also so hopeful. He wants her to live, to experience all the things he can't.
And that account he sets up for her, it's his final gift. A way to ensure her future, to push her towards a life he believes she deserves.
It's like he's saying, don't waste this chance. Live for both of us.
Yeah, it's bittersweet, but it leaves you with a sense of peace. Like, even in death, Will is still taking care of her.
So, Me Before You, it's a story that sticks with you. Makes you think about life, death, love, and everything in between.
It's not a light read, but it's definitely a powerful one.
And if you haven't read it yet, you can find a link to purchase it down in the description below. And while you're there, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive.
We'll be back soon with another mindful moment, exploring a new book and all the thought-provoking questions it brings up.
Until then, happy reading.